Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learning to Glow podcast. I'm your host, Jess. And if you are coming into the new year wanting to get healthy, lose weight, and stop feeling overwhelmed by wellness advice, this episode is for you. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone listening. I hope it was a wonderful holiday season for you. It's definitely the time of year where some of us are looking to clean up from the holiday. The eating, the less sleep, maybe a little bit more indulging than normal. I was out of town for a while this past holiday and not on my usual routine. And this year feels a lot harder to get everything locked in. I'm not sure. I am sure why. It's just been a lot going on, but I'm definitely moving a lot slower and just as I move forward into the new year with a little bit more grace than I have in years past. But this being the first episode of 2026 is perfect timing with our guest, Jenn Trepeck. She's a returning guest, and it is literally what we all need to hear for the new year. She is a health coach, author, and host of the Salad with a Side of Fries podcast. She's known for cutting through the noise of diet culture, wellness trends, and helping people build simple, sustainable habits that actually work. In this conversation, we talk about why wellness does not need to be complicated, how nutrient diversity and proper hydration support weight loss, and how to move away from the start over mentality that keeps so many people stuck every January. If you are tired of extreme plans, conflicting advice, and feeling like you're doing everything wrong, this episode will help you feel more confident and grounded and more in control of your head this post-holiday season, and, looking at your health journey from a different way. And her book is amazing. It's called Uncomplicating Wellness. So I will link her book, her information. She's so great. There's so many great practical tips in this episode. So go and check her out. Go follow her on social media. I hope you love it as much as I do. And here is Jenn. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. Jenn Trepeck, welcome back. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
I know. We had so much fun talking last time, and this time we're going to talk about your new book, yes. Uncomplicated Wellness, which is love the title. And I love, it's really what I love to talk about on my podcast is keeping things simple, because we complicate things in all areas, especially this topic with our health and our fitness and our nutrition, and everything is it gets complicated, but we don't need it to be. So first, before we get started, if you could just introduce yourself again. I'll link the last episode. I highly recommend that everybody listen to that first episode as well. But tell us again about you, what you do, and then we'll get started.
Absolutely. So hi. So I'm Jenn Trepeck. My background is business and marketing, and I became a health coach in late 2007 because of, I should say, my own, I call it a saga of weight management and health and trying to figure out all that stuff. I started my health coaching practice on the side of my full-time job. I did that on the side for 12 years. So July of 2019, I left my full-time job. August of 2019, I launched my podcast, Salad with a Side of Fries. And then so it was end of October 2025, the book Uncomplicating Wellness was released. And it's been an interesting, I was working on the book only, in 2025. From March, we had the book brief, and then end of July, the manuscript was done. So a handful of months. But also this was a lifetime and a handful of months in the making, because I grew up in diet culture and I was a dancer. So I was also hyper aware of my own body. And then I started to gain weight and did every diet under the sun and, all the things. And I became a health coach because I learned some information that completely changed my life, like allowed me to say I'd kicked my food issues. And I was like, well, why isn't this what we learned? And where did all of those things come from? And everyone deserves this information. So it's been an evolution between, my own life and then in working in this space for almost 20 years. The book really came from the fact that like the questions that I was getting from people had shifted. Over time, more and more, the questions that people ask are so in the weeds. And it's like there's no shortage of information anymore. Like, in fact, there's too much information, and that's part of what's creating the confusion. But so people, like even a friend sent me a reel from Instagram the other day that was basically saying broccoli is causing your bloating and avocado is a problem for some people. And so he sends me this message with just like question marks. And I replied to him and said, this is anti-nutrient fear mongering. And it's like, if we're in a place of talking avocado versus broccoli, like we're in a great place. The reality, though, is that the challenge most of us have is not avocado versus broccoli. And so we're so in the weeds on some of these things that we have missed the forest through the trees, or whatever that, analogy is that I'm totally butchering. Like, we need the foundations. One of the things I say all the time is like, we're not going to cold plunge our way out of not sleeping. So I love a cold plunge like the rest of them. And it's not the be all end all and the thing that's going to change everything for us. Because when we think it is, and then it doesn't, and this isn't just about the cold plunge, right? It's whatever we try from the internet or anywhere. When we think it's going to be this magic bullet and it's not, we personalize that failure. And we think there's something wrong with us rather than recognizing you didn't fail, the plan failed you. That wasn't the plan for accomplishing the outcome that you were looking for. But we missed that in the headline, So that was a very long answer to your question.
No, I love it. And I think I want to talk about that because I think, and I've dealt with people sending me reels and
of course
TikToks and stuff too, where they're like, what about this? And then you think, okay, maybe they're on a weight loss journey and they're like, I just saw something like I'm going to start eating 2 cups of beans a day. That's going to be. Have you seen this?
Yes. Yes. I mentioned this in an interview a different day, like right after this was sent to me. And I was like, please don't. Please don't.
But it's like, they're like, oh, like, I'm not doing that. And this person said they lost 10 pounds because they started eating 2 cups of beans a day. So I'm going to do that. And I think it's like you said, they're lost in, okay, I'm just going to do, it's like this one missing piece when it's deeper than that. So I want to start with that. I want to ask you about the noise and like the influencers that are giving advice and obviously they have to be kind of rage baity to get their content going. But then people are ingesting that and thinking, okay, like you said, what if they do the 2 cups of beans and they don't lose the 10 pounds? And then they're like, I didn't work for me.
I'm broken.
Yes. So talk to us more about that and what harm you see for people who are online and trying to like grasp for the magic bullet. You know what I mean? Like they're like, it's just that one thing that I'm missing and then I'll get to my health goals.
Yes. So, and this is essentially like the introduction in part 1 of the book, right? So the introduction is WTF is wellness anyway. So let's just start by saying, what's the goal we're after? And deciding what that is for ourselves, because your definition is going to be different than mine. And that's appropriate, right? We all lead different lives. Like I have zero desire to ever run a marathon. I live in New York City. I love marathon day. Zero desire to ever run a marathon. But what was coming at me for like weeks leading up to the marathon was all of this information that was about, like training and preparing and all of these things. And it was like, none of this applies to me. But I'm only clear on that because I know that I have zero desire to run a marathon. So one piece is for us to even just say, what's wellness to us? And is this person's goal my goal? So we can even say, like, are we even on the same page? Like, and you saying that this quote unquote worked for you. Well, what does worked mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And what does worked mean to me? So at least we can start having a benchmark or a barometer of information that gets past a certain point in our thinking. And then I have a chapter called My Top 5 Tips for Digesting Nutrition News, because the whole book itself is not a plan, but a filter. And exactly what we're talking about. It's a new lens through which we can evaluate all of the information coming at us. And so if we can recognize that that post on Instagram is about building their following and the rage baity to get the likes or the views, then we can say, okay, if I take the, bait part out of it, what's the fact of what they're saying? And how does that, in my world and what I know about my body, how does that sit with me? And I know that for a lot of us, this can feel a little woo-woo, and it's kind of a process to getting to this point. But it's about saying, like this other thing, if you feel great every time you eat broccoli, ignore the fact that this thing is saying some people shouldn't eat broccoli. Like, we know what makes us feel our best. Going to the beans thing. I can do small amounts of beans occasionally, but like, they don't agree with me. I don't feel energized if I eat that much.
Mm-hmm.
Forget like gas or any of that stuff. Like literally, I will be exhausted, like unable to keep my eyes open if I ate 2 cups of beans. So knowing that that's the case for me, I can say, great for you, not for me. So this is also in the beginning of the book, like spoiler, end of chapter 1. You said the magic bullet. And what I say at the end of chapter 1 is you are the magic bullet that you are looking for everywhere else.
Yeah.
You know your body better than any doctor, than any influencer, than any coach or guide, right? Like all of those experts can be super helpful. But when we completely outsource our thinking or our health or all of those things to these other people at the expense of ignoring what we know to be true for us, that's not, at least in how I define wellness, that's not going to get me there. And I'm pretty sure from the number of people that I've worked with over the last 20 years and podcast listeners and all the stuff, like it's not gotten anybody there.
Yeah. I love the marathon analogy that you use. It's so funny that you say that because I get the same things, and there's local people that are running and I'm like, oh my God, they're called influencers for a reason. I was like, oh, should I start running? And then I could be like mile 1, mile 2. And then I'm like, I ran a 1.5 miles with my son up hills and I was dead after that. I'm like, okay, that's not my path. I'm not a runner.
Running also makes me feel like I'm going to die. Like,
yes,
I am sure there is form and method to running that I just never learned. That's fine. I just never learned it. And so running makes me feel like I'm going to die. And I generally prefer to not do things that make me feel like I'm going to die.
Exactly. Same. And it's just so funny though. You're like, oh, maybe I should do these things. And also I think what you said was really important about we are the magic bullet. You are the magic bullet. But like you said, it is a process. And what do you say and recommend to people, to women who are just starting out on this journey? And to be quite honest, they're not in tune with their bodies. They have listened to, so much noise, or they've been on diets where this is when I can eat, this is how much I can eat. So they are separate from being in tune to their body. So where do you start with your clients that are in that position? Because I'm sure there's lots of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm working with somebody, we really start with the nutrition choices: protein, fiber, quality fat, eating regularly throughout the day. And in the beginning, we eat based on guidelines. So I say guidelines, not gospel. So we eat based on some guidelines to eat quality nutrition throughout the day. especially for women who have been dieting for years. We need a protein and fiber packed breakfast within an hour to 90 minutes of waking up. We need no caffeine before fuel. We can have our coffee or tea with breakfast or just after, not before.
Mm-hmm.
We need some water in the morning, right? We need some hydration, quality fuel, and then we'll see how the day plays out. Now, generally, we talk about a meal lasting 4 to 5.5 hours, depending on how much we eat. And a snack is probably 1 or 2, depending on how much we have. So based on the time of our breakfast and how much we have, we can sort of figure out about when we're going to need to fuel again and plan our day that way in the beginning. In the beginning, we follow the guidelines. We learn to choose foods for nutrition. And what ends up happening is, I always say to people, it's not magic, it's science, but it feels like magic because all of a sudden we start to notice our body communicating with us. Over time, we can say, wait, I'm hungry again.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn what that feels like. Or even for people who, are kind of eating on the guidelines and they go, I notice my energy is better, my sleep is better when. And we can start to notice some of these things and recognize that that's our body communicating with us. When we're tired, when we're hungry, when we're craving certain foods, those are communications from the body. And so sometimes it does take the help of someone else to help us decipher that, to find out or understand that, like, a lot of times when we're craving sugar, what the body really needs is protein. When we feel insatiable at night, like nighttime eating is your thing, that is very often connected to undereating in the first half of the day. So some of those things from an outside guide can be really helpful in learning to decipher that. But part of it is starting to work with our biochemistry instead of always trying to fight it. When we follow all these diets that have told us to eat less, move more, then we feel hungry. But the rule said, eat less, move more. So we're like the petulant child who sticks their fingers in their ear and is like, la, 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 like, I can't hear you, right? Well, the body biochemically, there are hormones that tell us when we're hungry and when we're satisfied. And when we ignore those signals, we can become resistant to those hormones where we don't respond to them appropriately anymore. And so part of what we do by starting with these nutrition pieces, and sometimes some supplementation can help with a lot of that too, but we kind of rehab the metabolism in a way so that we start to respond to these hormones again, and then we can experience it and we can feel it. So it's a process. I like to start with the nutrition piece. Mm-hmm. In the book, I talk about it as the biostack over biohack. So before we try all the things that we're seeing on the internet, let's make sure that our biostack is in place. Fuel or nutrition, movement, hydration, which is more than just water, stress, sleep, and connection are the 6 pieces of the biostack.
Oh, I
and
love
so that. With my clients, we tend to start on the nutrition piece and then some of the other things fall into place. But and I say this all the time, like, because the book is not a how-to, the idea of the biostack is that we have all of those things happening every day. How we get there, where we start, what really deserves our focus right now. I always say, like, this is the least satisfying answer, but it's the best one, which is it's going to be different for everyone. And you actually know which one it is for you, because it's the one where when I said the 6, you went, oh, right? Like, that's the one that probably deserves a little bit of attention from you. And in doing all of these things, whatever it is, whether we're starting with the nutrition piece or whatever it is, going back to how do we do this? Where do we start? We create the plan for ourselves for our most hectic, chaotic, ridiculous day. What often happens is that we get the rules. We're expected to follow every rule all the time, 100,000%, which is not realistic because we have lives, right? Like, even thinking about our sitting down today, like, we had to reschedule this. It's okay. Life happens. But if somebody had the rules, that would have been a failure, right? So we build these rules, or we follow the rules that are designed for this textbook perfect day that doesn't actually exist in real life. And then we think we're the problem. Again, the plan's the problem. So if we create the plan for our most hectic day, then on the days that aren't as wild, maybe those are the days that we do a little more. But the benchmark is the chaos, not this perfect thing that never exists being the benchmark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because then you're failing all the time.
Right.
And I think a lot of people starting off always overdo what they think they can do, and they plan for, it's like 0 to 100.
Yes.
And I know that from personal experience because I've done it many times. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'll do all the things
every day,
and I'll start right away from not doing anything. And I think I really love what you said about the habit stack versus the bio stack versus the biohack. And that reminds me of your first thing that you said with the cold plunge. It's like, okay, it's almost like the beans. Like, instead of thinking, okay, what's really foundational here to help me move the needle, I'm just going to add in these things and it's going to miraculously change, and I can keep my old habits the way they are.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't work like that.
The piece of the beans that might be working for people, it could be the fiber.
Yes.
It could be some more protein. Does that mean that for you to get fiber or protein, it has to look like 2 cups of beans? 1,000% not.
Yeah.
So it's like, to your point, like, what's the piece here that moves the needle? And let's focus on that versus like the specific of the 2 cups of beans.
Yes. Well, let me ask you, because you mentioned hydration.
Yeah.
And you said, and that's not just water. Can you expand on that?
Yes. Minerals. Hydration is really about minerals in the body. By the way, minerals, electrolytes are minerals, like the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have tons of water and still be dehydrated because we need these micronutrients, in particular, sodium, potassium, magnesium. Now, because we need these micronutrients, because we aren't eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, because the quality of the fruits and vegetables that we have today are just dramatically different than they were even 30, 40 years ago, we aren't getting what our human bodies need. So on top of the fact that most of us aren't drinking enough water, then we add to the, all of the things. So I think it's part of why all these electrolyte mixes have become so popular, because a lot of times we experience things that are actually symptoms of dehydration, but we think something's really wrong, like headache and hunger and kind of being moody, and right, like there's a million things where it's actually like, you're just dehydrated, The other side to all of that is, with all of these electrolyte mixes, they're not all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them are using table salt. Well, that's not getting us the minerals from the sodium that we really need. They may not be using the best form of magnesium or potassium for our body to be able to use it and not have maybe some negative side effects. Or they're coupled with sweeteners and additives so that you enjoy the taste of this thing, but those are actually potentially creating an insulin response that we're not looking for in that moment. So it's funny because part of uncomplicating on the surface level might seem like removing nuance, but the truth is, part of uncomplicating is understanding that there's nuance so that we can avoid the shiny object syndrome, so that we can identify what is for us and what isn't in everything that's coming at us.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, and that goes back to like, you see something and you're like, that's my new thing. So, before I move on from the hydration, do you recommend that people just find either one that's really important, that has everything that it needs, or like, do you recommend you just put some great salt in your water, or what do you recommend for that?
Yes, right. All of the above. I use an electrolyte powder called Tower Plus. I can send you a link for everybody, so we'll get you guys the link to that. Okay. I also often recommend with my clients that they start with just Celtic sea salt and sprinkle some sea salt in your water. You don't want it to taste like salt water, just enough that there's a flavor to the water, but you want it to taste pleasant. Like, if it doesn't taste pleasant to you and you're not going to drink it, don't drink that, I happen to be like hypersensitive to salt. Like I can just taste a little bit of salt in things. I think because I grew up not really ever, using salt.
Yeah.
So it's like I just don't have the taste for it. So the Tower Plus electrolytes for me, they have first of all, it's a dark pink Himalayan sea salt.
Okay.
But it also has a little bit of pepper in it, which helps balance for me to drink it. It helps balance that saltiness. And then I can actually drink it. So it is different for everyone. And it's more about thinking like, again, as you read, like if you start to identify like, oh, I'm experiencing all of those things, this might be a piece that I want to focus on. You can play with the Celtic sea salt and see how you feel. Like you don't have to invest a ton of money to start to play an experiment for yourself and notice if some of those things that you're experiencing get better.
Okay, that's great. I'm interested to check that out because
Yeah.
I'm always looking for electrolytes that are great, and I do just salt too, and I can just go like this with salt. Like I love salt, so
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. But I know a lot of people are focusing on their hydration, and I hear so many people tell me, "Oh my gosh, I did not drink enough water today. I do not drink enough water," and I see it. I see it in my friends and it with work and everything. So
I was
it's
to say,
definitely
you see it in the skin. I mean,
yeah, you see it
yeah.
in the skin. You do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is such an important piece to what you're talking about. So I wanted to talk about that. But in the beginning of our conversation, you talked about one of the reasons that you wrote this book is you were getting so many questions from your clients. And I'm sure a lot of them were the same. And you're like, whoa, like, we need to like refocus on what information you're getting because it's like out there, what I'm hearing. So tell us some of those questions. Like, what did you keep seeing time and time again that made you go, okay, I need to help people with this?
Yeah. It's, so there's a section of the book that I called, But What About? And it's
love it.
very short answers to all of the stuff where we could have this whole conversation. Then somebody goes, but what about coffee? But what about oatmeal? But what about GLP-1s? But what about, like all the things that we hear? So I'm going to flip through to even because there's about 50 or 60 in here, that we went through. Like, oh, the carnivore diet versus being vegan. And then SIBO is another one. Like, if you pay attention, so SIBO, a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, if you pay attention to the internet, it will make you think that 98% of people have SIBO. Like, most of us don't have SIBO, right? Yes, we can experience some of these symptoms. And for some people, it is. For a lot of us, it's not. A lot of us, it's, lack of digestive enzymes. It's a whole host of other things, or living in, low FODMAP diets or avoiding oxalates or all of these sort of elimination diets. So an elimination diet is designed to create a healing environment, right? Like we can't heal something if we continue to assault it.
Mm.
So the idea is that we eliminate the foods that are assaulting the gut, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or exacerbate it, whatever your thing is. We eliminate those things. We add in stuff for healing. So with autoimmune, with gut, it's a lot of times that gut barrier, the digestive enzymes, the probiotics, right? Like the microbiome, right? And then the objective is that after we repair, we can add those foods back in. But the assumption that we're going to live the rest of our lives eliminating entire food groups, I don't know, but that doesn't track for my definition of wellness.
Mm.
So it goes back to the very beginning of what's your definition? How does this align with that? Now, that said, there are certainly food allergies. There are certainly food sensitivities. So I did a food sensitivities test years ago, and a handful of things came back. So I eliminate, the things, and then you start to add them back in and see how you feel and experiment. So the things that I could not add back in were cashews and pistachios and beets.
Okay.
Not all nuts, just cashews and pistachios. Like not every root vegetable just beets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a difference between identifying a specific food that really doesn't agree with us and eliminating entire food groups because we think, again, that that's the magic answer, because we think that's what's going to eliminate. Because by the way, when we eliminate entire food groups or entire foods, our body will forget, for lack of, a better way to describe it. But essentially, the body loses its ability to process those foods. So the longer we go without them, the harder it is to add them back in. So we can do an elimination diet. It certainly serves a purpose. And we recognize that that's designed for a period of time, not necessarily for the end of time.
Yeah. And I think some people don't realize that when they start those, or they think like
Correct.
this is because they are labeling them bad, good, bad,
Right.
Putting the labels on foods is so common. We've actually had to do an elimination diet in our family for gut healing. And it took about 6 months. And the food sensitivity list was 22 foods. And then at the end of the 6 months, it was 2.
See?
So, it was that
and
changed
it's a
my
long
mind.
process.
It's a long
and
process.
I get it. Like, I've also had clients where they get it back, and like one guy in particular, he's in his 20s and he's just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I was like, I totally get it.
It's hard.
And if it was disturbing you enough, you would be willing. So if you're not willing, then I'm less concerned, because if you were uncomfortable enough, you would be willing.
Absolutely. I did this with a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done as a mom, as a woman, as a person.
I'm sure.
It was very difficult, but like, wow, what a result. And now we have freedom, so much freedom, which is beautiful. It's interesting and beautiful what food can do, but also the stress of, calling foods good or bad, I'm sure is something that you deal with your clients. And I think when you're starting to work with someone or you're working with clients, I know you have the stack of things that we're going to try to focus on. Do you have any daily practices or habits that you encourage them to start to as well? I feel like it can be it's difficult mentally too, to start and go from I'm under eating because that's the only way I'm going to lose weight to you're going to tell me to eat more. Sometimes a lot of people struggle with that. And also one thing that you said in the beginning that I think is so important is one thing for people who overeat at night. They're under eating during the day or like the first half of the day. That is so important for people to realize, because they'll wake up and be like, I'm just going to like not eat today because I overdid it last night. And then it's like this vicious cycle. So I threw a lot at you. Sorry.
Yes. No, I love this question. And it's a layered answer. So one of the things is, if you are living in this world right now of on, off, good, bad, black, white.
Yeah.
I've been there. I get it. And that's part of our work in this process. So you probably want to, like, there's stuff in the book to start with, and you might want to work with a coach who can help with some of that. Part of it is guidelines, not gospel, right? Recommendations, not rules. I'm a big fan of tracking. Now, I am with you. I have PTSD of tracking with the best of them. So I am resistant to tracking. What changed everything was thinking about it not in terms of the judgment of somebody saying, oh, you failed that day, right? Which happens all the time. People don't want to send me their sheets, or they go, oh, and what I see on the sheets is very different than what they see on the sheets.
Yeah.
I notice everything that is happening. They notice everything that isn't happening. And that mental shift of being motivated by what we do want rather than what we don't want is also part of this process. And I keep saying part of this process because it's not a switch that you flip.
Yeah.
It's not going to be on, off, good, bad, black, white, light, dark, So when we start to play with this, like, and I'm working with my clients and they say, oh, that was bad. I'm like, pick a different word. Right. And I'm a stickler for the words that we use.
Yeah.
Because they mean something. So we start to experiment and think about things differently and learn to live in the gray area, which is certainly different than how many of us have experienced this before. And again, it goes back to like, but that's wellness for me, is the ability to like enjoy all the foods that I enjoy. Like I will never give up French fries and cookie dough, full stop. You know, it doesn't mean I eat them every day, but I enjoy them and they are part of my life. And hate me if you want to. Tell me I am eating toxins. I don't care, right? Like there's joy. And I think the idea that like, you know, we have to remove joy from food is also part of the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm talking all over to your answer, but the idea is for us to have some of these things in each category that happen every day, and it doesn't have to look the same every day. And we start to know when we feel better and we go, oh, that was a left turn, right? Like let's take another left and circle back, right? It's one of my business colleagues, she always says, it's not a right or a wrong, it's a left or a right. And I think that applies here too. It's a left or a right, and let's see what happens. We're going to notice how we feel. We're going to get some kind of outcome that then informs the next choice. Everything is just a choice, and nothing is permanent. We get to just make the next choice, you know? So even this week, like I had a client, he had a lot of pain this week, like the weather and humidity and some other, he just had a lot of pain this week. And a couple days, like he texted me, you know, and I said, well, what are you doing to help yourself feel better? And like, even that question is a total shift so that we can say like, okay, my energy is off today. I'm not feeling great. What can I do to help me feel better? I have tools in my tool belt. I can eat these foods. I can get some of this kind of movement. I can go outside and get fresh air or sunlight, right? Like, and part of the objective is to have enough things in the tool belt, because the same things won't work every day. It doesn't mean the tool failed. It doesn't mean you failed. It means nothing more than the fact that it didn't do what you needed today. So we have to have enough of those tools that we can just keep pulling out the next one. So like, I'm a big fan of the Post-it. When it comes to stress and stress eating or emotional eating or some of that like habitual stuff that happens at night, like for a lot of us, we eat while we watch TV or whatever it is. It's just sort of like this pattern. And over time, we'll get to the point where it's like, all right, maybe we're starting by switching what we eat when we eat at night. And then maybe we move to like a tea or something. So it's still flavor and sort of oral, for lack of a better word, but it's not, you know, food, right? So we have a little bit of a progression there. And then maybe we get to the point where we're like, you know what? Like maybe I could do a different activity. And so we make a Post-it of a whole bunch of things that we actually enjoy doing that maybe we don't spend enough time doing. Is it read a book, listen to a specific song, call a friend, and which friend? You know, maybe there's a couple names on the list. Like I have at my coffee table a coloring book and like colored pencils, like something to just like occupy my hands especially when I'm working on putting my phone down, you know, like I can do the coloring book thing while I watch TV or whatever it is. But there's enough things on the list. And then there's that Post-it on the coffee table that reminds me. I have a client who put another copy of that Post-it on the pint of ice cream, so that it interrupted her when she was like walking to do the thing. There's also this assumption sometimes I hear from people every day, well, I just have to. I just have to do it. Well, no, ma'am, that doesn't make it easier to do. I appreciate the discipline. Let's live in reality. I need reminders. I have Post-its everywhere with the list of things, because to me, there's nothing harder than thinking of the list of things in the moment when I need them.
Yeah.
So I put them on the Post-it. There's a Post-it on the coffee table. I have alarms in my calendar. Really, it's appointments in my calendar that have words and reminders so that the calendar alerts me. Literally, I have one every single day. These days it's at 10:15. Sometimes it's at 10:45 that says in the calendar, stop what you're doing and get ready for bed. So the alarm reminds me of what I am supposed to do. If I just set an alarm, then I have to go, what was that alarm for?
Right.
Like We expect so much of ourselves, and we are such capable people. So I get that. And I live in the camp of how can we make this the easiest? Nobody wins for making this the hardest.
Mm.
How can we make it so simple that it's harder not to do the thing?
That is so good. I mean, at one point, my husband and I were sharing a calendar, and he's like, I got to get off this. He's like, get me off of this. Because I was like,
I have to say, I
go
vaguely
outside.
recall you saying that because I think we talked about this last time.
I'm the same though. I can't even remember where I put my phone 5 seconds ago. It's like this repeated thing. I'm now in perimenopause too. So
Same.
I have,
Yeah.
give me like a break. But like if I had to keep all this stuff in my brain, I would just walk around in circles, like going crazy. And I think it's so important to, like you said, make things easy for yourself. I love Post-it notes. I think this is all such great tips, especially as we're so programmed habitually to do these things. TV, ice cream, it's like we don't have to think about that. So we need some type of way to alert us, to remind us, this isn't what I want anymore. So like, let's try something different. And I love the idea with the coloring too, and just getting something like as simple as pouring yourself a cup of tea. I don't know what it is about having a cup of tea. I just feel like I'm at the height of wellness. I just feel like the biggest wellness girly. When I sit there with my tea at night, I'm like, I am so good right now. Like it's a great feeling. It feels so warm. It's so perfect for this time of year. So I love all those tips. And I think speaking of this time of year, like we are about to go into the new year, new me. There
are a few things I loathe more. I think.
I know. There's a lot of chatter about to start happening. Yeah. What do you want to tell people? I think a lot of people have the mentality of, I'm just going to go off the rails from now until the end of the year, and then I'll start on the 1st. Let's talk about that. What's your advice there?
I'm not a fan of, go hog wild until a certain date.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes that moment just even more difficult.
Yeah.
What if we use this time of year to practice? I actually just recorded an episode about this. So I think nutrient diversity is one of the most underrated tools. Nutrient diversity is essentially just variety.
Yeah.
Eating a bunch of different things. And you know what happens this time of year? We eat a lot of things that we don't normally eat. So what if we could look at this time of year as a practice in diversity? And for what it's worth, like, holiday cookies and those kinds of things, they're not really offering much by way of that nutritional diversity, but other things do. And everything has its place. So one of the things that I always ask my clients is like, what are the foods that define this holiday for you? Where if you didn't have it, you would be thinking about it for like months. So I often do this exercise with people at Thanksgiving. For me at Thanksgiving, there is this butternut squash souffle that like we kind of only eat at our Thanksgiving that I love. To me, like if I don't have that, I'm going to be thinking about it, right? So then the question becomes, once we identify those foods, then the question becomes, how much do we have to feel like we had it? So if that's mac and cheese for you, awesome. How much mac and cheese do you have to feel like you had it? We sometimes use a thing called the 3-bite rule, which like tracks back to neuroscience. It's, I have a nutrition nugget on my podcast if you guys want to learn about that. But so sometimes 3 bites is not going to cut it. For me, with the squash souffle, 3 bites is not cutting it for me to feel like I had this. And we probably don't have to eat half of the tray of the thing to feel like we had it either.
Yeah.
So a little bit of forethought to decide what those things are for you, enjoy them, and keep moving forward. Other than the new year, new me that I loathe, I also loathe the phrase start over. What if we eliminated that idea and just thought of it as always keeping going? Because what do you have to start over? It was a holiday. We enjoyed and onward, right?
Yeah.
Like we can just keep going. And so if we can start to play with some of those ideas now, it makes the new year even easier and even better. I encourage people, like, I'm like the anti-resolution person. So I feel like if you call it a resolution, like by definition, it won't happen just because you called it a resolution, you know? But like, think about how you want to feel this time next year, personally, professionally, you know, like all the things in your life. Like, how do you want to feel? Are there things you want to do? Do you want to feel accomplished? Well, what has to happen for you to feel accomplished? You know, like, let's decide on those things and then figure out the plan to get there. Again, making the plan for our most hectic, chaotic, stressful day, and just start to take some steps and see what happens and play with it, experiment, be curious about it versus the rules and the on-off, good, bad. Yeah. I am starting on this day because it's going to be 100% from that moment on. Like, well, what if 100% isn't even required?
I love that. You know, I think the start-stop thing is just like from all of our constant noise from diets. You know, it's like you start here, you end here, and then what? Instead of thinking of it like you're saying, this is just our life. Like, this is just our journey. We're just going to keep going no matter what. So I think that's like, it's so ingrained in us with how diet culture has been that we're like, okay, I had one bad night, so I'm just going to have the rest of the bad nights. Like, all of the nights are bad until this date or whatever. So I think that's really important to remember when we're going through this holiday season and like going into the new year and seeing a bunch of stuff online.
And I think too, like, even just going back, like thinking about your kids, like for everybody, like take it back to what we would recommend for kids.
Yeah.
You know, like you wouldn't say to your son, like, oh, you ate 3 brownies. Well, you might as well just eat the rest of them. Yeah. Like, we would never say that. We also wouldn't say, don't eat all day and just eat the brownies because you're eating the brownies. We're going to save your calories. Like, we know that that's not how the human body works because you would never recommend that to your kids.
Right. That's a great way to look at it and think about it. And also, we're so mean to ourselves when you think about it. Like the kids, we would never be mean to them in that way with nutrition, but we do it to ourselves. If you had to take one thought in your book that is so important that you want everybody to hear that's listening now, what would it be?
There's a few things, you know, I think, and we've covered them, but I think fundamentally it's, you already know you're the magic bullet. And if we start to use that as the guide, then we can play with some other tools and find the consistency that's going to move the needle.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. So for everyone listening, where's the best place to get your book? Tell us how they can work with you. Give us all the information, and then I'll link everything in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah. So the book is called Uncomplicating Wellness. It is available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, like all the places you like to buy books. Full disclosure, it's like Barnes & Noble online. If you go into the store, they probably have to order it for you, but it's, you know, little old me, you know, first-time author, they're not necessarily stocking it yet. So, but wherever you like to buy books, it should be there. My website is asaladwithasideofFries.com. So the book is there. My podcast, Salad with a Side of Fries, is there. Information to send me a message or whatever. You know, if you have questions about working with me, I do both group and one-on-one coaching for 12 weeks. So this is also not till the end of time. It is 12 weeks, build the tool belt, go live your life, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And then all social media, I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. And by the way, like, I love hearing from you. So please send a message.
Yes, go follow Jenn. Go check out her book. It's amazing. Thank you so much for being here again. You're going to have to come back again. We'll have to do this every year.
I would love to.
Okay.
It'd be my pleasure. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jenn. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.